And we're joined by Grant from Empire. How you keeping, man?
Not bad, not bad. Yourself?
Yeah, like we were saying, can't complain. No, anytime, man. Obviously, last time I saw you guys was my last gig before all this kicked off with Winter's End Festival. It's the last show I got to see before the whole pandemic kicked in. How you guys been keeping since?
All considering, pretty good. It's been obviously with gigs being a kind of almost a thing of the past. It's we've had to kind of adapt and do what we can. So through lockdown, so whether that's the online sort of streaming stuff, we've been doing sort of various sort of acoustic sessions, or Henrik and then Did got on that. So the live streaming. We've been writing. We've been putting sort of various other content out on social media, sort of Empire at home. We've had a sort of steady stream of single releases, of acoustic single releases, of what will actually is being announced today is the acoustic album.
Oh, fantastic!
So pre-orders are coming out today for that, and so that's coming out on the 30th of April. So that's kind of been building up through sort of 2020, and then also writing for the next album. So we can't gig; it's difficult times, but we're doing what we can.
No,
keep moving forward.
Yeah, keep yourselves busy and doing, like you say, doing what you can, because with lack of live shows and stuff. But like you say, you've already Stone is getting released today as well. No, Stone got released. I'm thinking about when this is there now, aren't I? Stone got released on the 12th of February.
So I think the video, because with all our singles as well, we don't just necessarily put out the single onto streaming sites and stuff. We also there's artwork that goes with the single, but also we've tied videos with the release as well. So I think the video release came out on Monday.
Yeah, the video looks fantastic.
Yeah, it's great, really cool. The actual single itself is coming out on the 12th.
That's fantastic. Like you say, you've already previously you'd already released Only Way Out and Driver's acoustic compositions, as well as Stone now. Was it always a plan to do an acoustic session at some acoustic album at some point, or was that just something that came out because of the pandemic sort of thing?
It was already in the works, which is kind of fortunate. So we'd already recorded it sort of pre-lockdown. We're working on it into 2019, so it was always the plan. Things have had to adapt slightly. We were hoping to tour it, which obviously we can't. We may do something sort of when restrictions lift. So there was always the plan. So far we released Drive, Cut to the Core, Just a Ride, Only Way Out, and now and Stone. We've got Too Close to My Bad to come yet, as well as the album. And so for each of those, you've got the artwork. You've also got videos. There's a lot of content, but that was always kind of the plan. We do a lot of acoustic stuff. What do you find with so a lot of bands on the scene, a lot of the festivals, as you know, being an organizer, there's always the sort of acoustic stage, which is a lot of time kind of your first kind of foot in the door at a festival. And so we've done quite a lot of acoustic gigs, and we've found that the acoustic side of things was a way of sort of impressing and then sort of getting back onto main stages, or being able to come back the next year and do an electric step. So it's something that we've always done as a band, and really not just kind of played the same tracks with acoustic guitars with the same arrangements. We kind of take it as an opportunity to kind of do something a little bit fresh. When you're sort of out gigging, the same tracks or same, well, not the same set, but the same sort of 10 or 20 tracks, it can get sort of fairly repetitive. So taking those tracks and kind of almost reimagining them, so rearranging sort of new parts. So while they are the same song, there are differences. There's difference in feels, and some of the feedback we've had is actually some people actually prefer the acoustic arrangements.
Yeah, like you say, there's some acoustic songs out there that are very easy just to, like you say, literally just pick up your acoustic guitar, your acoustic bass, your cigar box or whatever, and then just sort of repeat, as it were, what the electric song was. But any time I've heard an acoustic rendition, like you say, it's always been almost like a reimagining as such of that.
Yeah, it's definitely a slightly different arrangement. Did gets to play on the piano, He's a rather talented pianist as well.
Yeah, he is.
He's and so it's kind of great to do that. It keeps it fresh and a bit different. So when an acoustic gig comes up, there's always a bit of extra excitement because I've got to relearn some parts. And sometimes you find you actually prefer what you're doing in the acoustic arrangement and start actually bringing some of that or some of those variations into the electric. Because a lot of these tracks were recorded sort of after Self-Aware, and so as you kind of gig and tour songs and things, they kind of naturally change. You kind of listen back and go, "Oh, that's what I used to do." But you find that the acoustic arrangements, or the well, not arrangements, but some of the parts you play, you kind of start kind of gravitating towards. Actually, I prefer what I did there, and so start kind of mixing those into the electric tracks.
They start feeding into each other, sort of thing.
Exactly, it kind of bleeds.
Yeah. So we mentioned the video there for Stone. Now I didn't know how to describe it in the video because it's not a lyric video. Yeah, it's not a concept video. It's kind of an amalgamation of the two. It's a really cool artwork for it within the video. I really liked it. Is that sort of theme of it transpiring onto the other videos that are coming out for the upcoming singles, or are you doing something completely different?
So the singles so far, so Drive and Cut to the Core, were recorded locally.
Okay.
And so they're like a live performance video. But we've done some Henrik has like a 360 camera, so there's like a 360 version, I think, of Cut to the Core. Okay. With Just a Ride, there's some really cool animation. So Just a Ride, it's kind of inspired by a comedian called Bill Hicks.
Yeah.
And so one of his quotes is like, "Life is just a ride," and Did's a big fan. And so there's a animation for that, and sort of it's on YouTube, so people can go and watch it. But it's a roller coaster and all this sort of stuff, and sort of demons and things, and really, really, really cool. Only Way Out, the video for that was done in a studio, and with this huge Yamaha grand piano, which was
that looked absolutely stunning when I saw that video.
Yeah, so there's this huge Yamaha grand piano, and absolutely amazing. The cameraman for that was a classical pianist.
Oh wow!
And so he got to go on it as well, and apparently it was absolutely incredible. We found out afterwards that the piano is worth about £140,000.
I remember Did telling me that when I spoke.
Yeah, exactly. So it's like, wow, it's quite something.
So you're glad you found out afterwards and not before?
Well, exactly. He probably wouldn't have played it. Actually, knowing Did, he probably would. He would have hit it harder. So off the back of that, we got some support from Yamaha, who sort of shared it on their social media channels. So, which is quite cool. So videos at the moment, we want to do something kind of performance related for My Bad, but we had some stuff planned, but with lockdowns and things, that's not happened yet. So we've got some plans for that, but we'll have to sort of wait and see whether that can happen or not.
Yeah,
but
cool.
Fingers crossed.
No, fingers crossed, man. Well, like I say, it was a chat that did a couple of months back, and he was saying that when you got sort of introduced with Yamaha and them supporting the song and all that, that they offered like a tour of their premises, as it were, and where their various instruments were and what have you. Did you guys manage to do that tour of Yamaha places?
No, not yet. But being a big gearhead, I'm really looking forward to that. So once the sort of lockdown's been lifted, I'm looking forward to getting down to London and checking out the shop and having a sort of VIP day, which would be really, really cool.
Yeah, I bet. I must admit, as a fellow bass player, when Did tell me about that, I was pretty jealous.
Well, I've just acquired a Yamaha bass as well, so
nice.
Yeah.
Nice. What do you acquire?
It's a Yamaha BB, so like the broad bass.
Oh right, yeah.
Like a PJ type thing. So Yamaha BB 1025X or something.
I think I know.
So a really good solid 5-string PJ.
Yeah. I know. I was bringing it up there now. Yeah, that was what I was thinking it was. They look great.
Yeah, not overly expensive bass, but really, really solid and sounds great.
It's funny though, isn't it? Sometimes don't get wrong. some instruments that sound amazing are expensive, but you know, there's like perfectly good basses out there that are certainly within anyone's grasp. I mean, and it's all about finding. Well, you get to know your sound, you get to know what feels right for you, and that's that at the end of the day.
Exactly. Yeah. I've had sort of, you know, much more expensive instruments, and they simply don't work in the mix. They can be beautiful, they can feel great, but actually, when it comes to using them in a live environment, you know, they don't cut it. You know, for whatever reason. Doesn't mean they're bad. It just means they don't work. You know, for whatever you're doing. Personally, I find a good solid P bass, particularly like in the studio mix, works really well, because that's the other thing. What works in the studio doesn't necessarily work live. Like the tools and things used in the studio and the sounds you use, you know, aren't necessarily going to kind of correspond to what you then take on the road. Like in the studio, when we've been able to, I've been sort of reamping and stuff using an Ampeg SVT,
Okay.
Which I bought some time ago, and it's been kind of sitting underneath the stairs, because it's flight cased. It's about 40 kilograms.
Wow.
So there's no way I'm taking that on the road until we're big enough for someone to, you know, carry it for me. And with not going to the gym for the last year, with, you know, lockdown and COVID, I went to lift it up, and it's like, oh my word. So yeah, it's used in the studio, then goes back in its box. But
so
yeah.
Do you use different basses in the studio to, like, when you play live, say?
Yeah. So like in the studio, I'll bring a range of basses. So like we're on the album 2. Yeah, I'm using a fretless, a couple of different 5 strings. Yeah, my main bass, which is my main live bass, which is my Alpha Instruments, which is made for me.
Oh wow.
They're based up in Yorkshire, just a couple of guys, but they make some of the finest instruments you'll find. Absolutely stunning, you know, Alpha Instruments. So mine's quite a sort of plain, sort of, you know, meat and potatoes type version. You know, it's not got any of the fancy stuff on it. It's just a good bit of wood with some good pickups, high levels of craftsmanship, and it, you know, sounds like nothing else.
Wow, that's incredible, man.
And so yeah, that's the main instrument. And I've got my other kind of key bass is my Dingwall 5-string.
Yeah.
Which has the fan frets and things. So sounds amazing. You know, the kind of clarity of it is incredible, and the low end, you know, is kind of thunderous. But I've got fairly small hands, and so at the moment, you know, with the material we've been doing, I predominantly play a 4-string and then go on to a 5-string for a few tracks.
Oh, okay.
Though with material we're writing at the moment, we just seem to be getting lower and lower. And Did's acquired a baritone guitar.
Oh wow.
So yeah, so the 5's coming out more and more and more. So I bought the Yamaha sort of BB 5-string as a kind of a live bass, because I find like the Dingwall is a bit of a stretch for my small hands.
Yeah. So how is the writing for the new album coming along, for the electric album?
Considering like the challenges and stuff, it's going pretty good. You know, we're grateful that we've been able to do, you know, something. It's coming together nicely. So we've got demos for quite a few of the tracks. Yeah, we've got some parts or some bits done in the studio.
Yeah.
I'm not sure how much I'm actually allowed or meant to be saying about album number 2, but we'll find out. Yeah, when this airs and I get in trouble. But it is coming on. You know, considering, you know, lockdown, like we've had to kind of adapt and learn new skills. Yeah, Henrik's always been pretty good with the Cubase and stuff. You know, it's part of the acoustic album was recorded at his, and other parts were done in the studio as part of just trying to kind of, you know, manage costs.
I was going to ask how you managed to sort of record the acoustic album. Was that all fully done before lockdown hit then?
It was done before lockdown.
Oh, okay.
So some of the like videos and stuff, like the animations and stuff, that's been sorted out sort of post lockdown, but then, yeah, that's all done remotely.
Yeah.
So yeah, fortunately, you know, it was all done before lockdown. So we've managed to get some studio time in, you know, when, you know, between lockdowns and, you know, when sort of rules and stuff sort of allowed.
Got you.
So, you know, we're a long way off having it finished, but, you know, we've got a fair amount done, and it's getting there.
That's cool, man. It must be good just to be able to be doing something though. You know, if you can't do the live gigs. I mean, like I was saying, it was Winter's End when I last saw you guys. I can't remember if you guys performed any more gigs after that, but you know, you come
Yeah,
to
we did.
well, you had
We
to
got
have
a few
those
gigs
gigs in
with.
the pubs and stuff, didn't you? When the lockdown eased and that, you did that couple of live shows, didn't you? Sorry.
We did, yeah. We did a couple of local acoustic gigs. One of our local kind of venues managed to turn their back garden into like a 150 capacity kind of outdoor venue, all kind of marqueed. And so they had sound engineers from the local, one of the venues. So they put up a really good sound system, PA, had really top engineers, and actually it worked really well. We had a great couple of shows there, and it was good to get out and do something. Yeah, actually, for the first time, I was actually nervous before shows. When you're out doing it every weekend, almost you kind of get used to it. You kind of almost kind of lose that buzz unless you're doing something particularly big, like for us at least, like the Winter's End was. You don't get numb to it, but you get used to it, and so it's great to have that kind of those nerves back again. It was cool.
Yeah. What I liked about Winter's End when I was there is, I mean, obviously I was only there as a punter, but from a punter's aspect, it was everyone was up for stuff like all the time. Like I was new, that was the first time I'd seen you guys, so obviously I was wanting to get down early, see you guys. Same with Rocket Dolls when they were on. I know the Rocket Dolls quite well, and I was thinking, there's some great bands really early on. I hope, for want of a better term, I hope no one's too hungover or too tired and not going out the caravans or whatever. But walking in, the place was just as buzzing as at the beginning of the day as it was at the end. It was a fantastic festival.
Yeah, we were quite taken aback. We managed to get there to catch the last half of the Rocket Doll set.
Oh, yeah.
So yeah, it's a band that I've enjoyed playing with and touring with. A great bunch of guys, and I really like the music. So they had a really good crowd, and so at that point you're thinking, okay, cool. It was I think 2:30 or so.
Yeah, about that.
Playing. And so I thought, okay, this has got a great vibe. I'm liking this. And so I think we were on at 12 or 12:30 on the Sunday morning, so we didn't know what to expect. And it was kind of mind blowing, and it was quite the gig because there's quite a lot of drama for us. Because I was hanging. I was pretty ill. I've been in and out of hospital with various kind of infections and stuff, and just not in a good way. Henrik had a bit of an episode overnight, and while he told the crowd that he was hungover, he wasn't hungover. He wasn't drunk, but something happened in the night, and he managed to pass out and kind of hit his head or something. So I was in the caravan. There was a crash, and I assumed it was, someone else, and it's just someone's come in drunk. But no, I went out to have a look, and it was Henrik. I said, "Oh my God, what's going on?" So he was in bad shape, and at one point he was like, "Oh, are we going to be able to do this?" Elliot, our drummer, was also ill, and was moments away from having an accident. So it was one of those gigs like, oh no, but it all came together. It was just such an incredible response. It was.
I was going to say, if it helps for someone who was out front, mate, you wouldn't have known.
Well, sometimes when kind of things are working against you, it kind of helps you to kind of elevate, or sometimes you put more in to kind of compensate.
Yeah.
Not to say that we wouldn't have gone for it sort of 100%, but with all the other stuff going on, sometimes you kind of compensate more, I suppose.
Yeah.
But it was a great gig, and it was quite incredible afterwards. The response we got was sensational. It really was. And so even though we didn't get to do a lot of the festivals and tours and gigs that was planned, just having done that kind of almost kind of made the year. Really, it's like, well, at least I got to do that, because it's one of those experiences that you don't forget. It was really, really special.
I bet. I mean, I was saying to Dad when I spoke to him, like that was the first time seeing you guys live, and I'd heard some of the more heavier side of you guys, but I hadn't heard that more progressive element as much, which obviously showcase. And me and you spoke before, mate. I love Stephen Wilson. I love all sorts of music.
Yeah.
And for me, it was that perfect combination of like, the only way I sort of could belong there was like Alice in Chains and the Nephilim, and just there was certain that there was a real, you got your heavy, some more grungy kind of riffs and stuff, and then you've got this big anthemic, ambient, almost progressive. People say progressive rock's a bad word. I don't necessarily agree. There's a lot of great bands within that, and I think there's just elements and a perfect match. I think for me, which I'd only heard the sort of more the heavier side of you guys before, so it's good to see that other side of you guys, the other side of your songs and such.
Yeah, so I do like the progressive side. I've probably got the heavier taste of music in the band, and I suppose the problem with, or the problem you can have with prog metal or prog rock is the accessibility side of things.
Yeah.
If some people won't listen to it because no, it's prog rock or something,
Yeah.
or they get put off by the 20-minute songs or lengthy solos or something like that. But I find I kind of like the balance that sort of Empire have. There's a bit, but not enough, I think, to put most people off.
No, I think I definitely agree with you there. Like you say, there's that tag, isn't there? If you, as soon as you say progressive to anyone, they go no, and you're like, well, just listen to it. Like we were talking sort of before when me and you were just generally chatting about the Steven Wilson album, and I've seen a lot of stuff on that going around, and people just bad mouthing it, and you're like, right, just listen to it, just dedicate yourself. Just
I love it.
Guitar. I think it's fantastic. Like my wife's a huge Steven Wilson fan. I'll be honest. It was her who really got me into him. I was aware of Porcupine Tree and stuff like that before, but solo-wise, it was really when me and Joe wanted to go see him solo, and we went to go see him at the Albert Hall, and that was
wow.
Yeah, that was at Raven Refused to Sing first time we saw him at the Albert Hall, and so I'd sort of, as I will, if I'm going to see someone, I will go soak up that person I'm going to go see. So poor Joe didn't get a chance to revisit her albums because we weren't living together at the time. Quite fun and us being together, and it was a case of I just sort of nicked her 3 albums and had them on rotation in my car for about 2 weeks until we saw him, and it's one of the best men I've ever seen live, quite frankly.
Yeah, I've not got to see him live. I've watched plenty of his sort of recorded concerts and stuff, and they are sensational. There's some great musicians playing with him.
Fantastic. I mean, one of my favourite bass players, my point of view, is Nick Beggs, and I didn't really appreciate him too much until seeing him with Steven Wilson, to be fair. But I was sort of watching him, because the first time I saw him was obviously at that show. And it was like looking at him going, I recognise that bloke. Where do I recognise him from? And then as you do, on the train on the way home, I'm like, oh, who's playing bass for Nick Beggs on my phone and blah, blah. And then I'm like, oh, it's the bloke from Kajagoogoo. But I wouldn't have never have put those, Steven Wilson and Kajagoogoo together. So, but have you heard any of Nick Begg's other bands, the Mute Gods?
No, I haven't actually.
On a personal note, I'd highly recommend the Mute Gods.
Mute Gods, I'm not going to know that.
Yeah, it's Nick Begg's is Steven Wilson's band, and he's got Marco Meinman on the drums, who obviously was with Steven Wilson at one point. I forgot who he's
Aristocrats as well.
Yeah, Aristocrats.
Yeah, he's sensational. Yeah.
Fantastic drummer. And I can't remember who's got guitar now.
Well, it goes. Was it Guthrie and David Kilminster?
Yeah. Guthrie is sensational.
Well, again, Aristocrats, but completely nuts guitarist. I think Did's met him on a couple of occasions.
Yeah, I think me and Did's got talking about this summer.
Yeah, I think Did's done some of those guitar camps for guitar nerds. Did is just a sensational guitarist.
Definitely.
I suppose one of the reasons why we have that sort of proggy element is because Did is as talented as he is.
Definitely. Like I say, there's obviously an amalgamation of influences that sort of make up the Empire sound, as it were. But who were your biggest influences picking up bass, man?
Well, that's an interesting one because I didn't start out on bass. I made that switch.
Okay.
Actually, only really a few years ago. I grew up playing drums.
All right.
I went to sort of drum tech, study drums, to be a professional drummer, and I developed a problem in my wrists, and so that kind of sort of quashed that. So a lot of my musical influences are probably more as a rhythm section rather than necessarily bass players.
Gotcha.
So from drummers that I used to kind of look up to, I still do, people like Dave Grohl. Yeah. Obviously not the most technical drummer, but feel, kind of groove and approach. Obviously with Nirvana and he's playing on the Songs for Death Songs for the Deaf, Going to the Stone Age, absolutely
fantastic.
sensational. Really, really, awesome drumming. Obviously, John Bonham, he's just, as rock drummers go, particularly sort of back then in sort of 70s, just absolutely awesome. Mike Portnoy, again as a drummer. So bass player influences. Because I made the switch because I was playing in sort of pub bands and things, and I made the switch to bass maybe 8 years ago. I could play bass, and I wanted to be a bass player, but I was in a busy band, and so when the opportunity came up, I kind of made the switch and got my head down, sort of did some study, and got to the level where I could sort of effectively do the same job but on bass. And so then that kind of switch happened, and I suppose influences then as a bass player, I suppose particularly with sort of Empire and stuff, is people like Justin Chancellor from Tool. Doug Pinnock's a huge one from King's X.
King's X,
yeah. He's just his tone.
I don't think he gets the credit he deserves.
Oh, he's
He
awesome.
always seems to get overlooked. And
his voice as well. He's singing and playing. He's a solid player. The thing that really inspires me about sort of Doug Pinnock is his tone. With a mixture of I think 8-string and 12-string sort of basses through guitar, amps, and bass rigs, all kind of sort of mixed together, and you get this huge, massive
wall of
force.
with him, isn't he?
Yeah,
really hard to...
just like wow. So yeah, and his groove as well. It's not just his sound; it's his groove, and doing all that while he's kind of belting out the vocals. Yeah, it's kind of awesome. Justin Chancellor from Tool. Obviously, the guy can riff, but also like his melodic playing as well. He kind of, while the guitars are out doing the kind of atmospheric stuff, really sort of holding it down, and also doing some melodic sort of counterpoint stuff as well. Really, really kind of inspirational. Sort of, just showing the bass players you can go up the dusty end of the neck.
Oh, definitely. Yeah.
You are allowed there.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah. I'll always remember. When was I saw that? It was the video. I think I was about 14, and I've been playing bass about a year, so I'd be about 14, and I was sort of, parents were out, so Kerrang TV was on, and I was just like watching this, and the video for Schism came on. It was the first time I'd ever seen. So, and obviously the whole artwork there, Adam Jones and all that.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at this going like, and this is like, I don't know, 10 in the morning or something, just before I go to basically grab the bus to go meet some friends in town. And I'm like, what on earth is this? And then the opening bass lick for Schism came in, and I'm just like, oh, okay. And then I just sat there, and I'm like, I was sort of obsessed with it. And I was like, this is the days before social media. I feel like I'm saying I went to work on a horse and cart, but two kids, by one point social media didn't exist. So I was like, right, okay. So, and I remember just getting on the bus to go to town. I was like 14, jumped on, my mate was there, and I'm like, have you heard this band Tool? And he's like, no. And all day, like, I kept bumping into various friends, and it was like, have you heard it? No. No, not. Everyone was just into like Slipknot and Papa Roach and stuff. No, not heard them. And there was a mate of mine who's a couple of years older than me. We bumped into him sort of coming home. And my mate's sort of going, "Are you sharp about them?" And I'm going, honestly, you need to hear this song. You need to hear it. And then my mate Zach's like, "Who's that there, mate?" And I sort of mentioned Tool. And unbeknownst to me, he was a massive fan of them. And he was immediately just like, "Great, that's it, that's fine." And then the next time I saw him, he brung me a Nima album. I was just like, "Lee, you need to listen to that, mate. That's what you need to do." But I've been a big fan ever since. Just Adam, like you say, Justin Chancellor's bass is just insane.
I think that I kind of, he's a great player. He's inspirational. I think I first saw Tool. Is it Ozfest or something?
Oh yeah, Ozfest 2002. I was at that one.
Oh, cool. And I was just kind of, for that entire thing, just completely absorbed. They didn't move on stage. They didn't need to. Like the music, the sound was huge, and they had all their kind of videos and stuff playing in the background. They're just kind of like, wow, it was absolutely incredible.
Oh, definitely. It's the same if you go see Perfect Circle. Like Maynard does the same thing. Then
Mm.
I saw him at Cambridge. I think it was Cambridge Corn Exchange, 2003, 2004, and it was the same thing. I mean, you didn't see Maynard the whole gig. He was behind a big screen, and you just saw like his shadow, and that was that. But it was still one of the best experiences I've ever seen. And you didn't even see the front man. So, but I think some frontmen need to go out and demand a crowd, and sometimes you do the more arty thing or the more subtle thing. And I think if you're doing what you're good at, I think it's just as powerful.
I kind of also, one of the things I miss, and one of the negative points about, I suppose, all the information that is just at our fingertips on our phone is like the discovery of music. Because you're talking about sort of talking to your mates about, I've heard this band, and trying to figure out who they are and get more information about them. The fact that everything is just so readily available, it's great for small bands like like Empire, because you can then instantly sort of go online and find everything. But I kind of do miss that kind of walking into a record store when they existed.
Yeah.
Going, what's that you're playing? And going, oh, hang on, I like that. I'll buy that album. Or seeing something once and then going, right, I need to get the album, rather than just going onto YouTube or something to kind of then listen to the entire back catalogue. You almost had to kind of go somewhere, buy the album,
go and find it.
It was kind of an experience rather than literally having everything at your fingertips within sort of milliseconds.
It's funny that me and my wife were talking about this the other day. Like you say, for rising bands, it's fantastic, and it's certainly good for me. As like I've always been someone, if there's no one on the main stage at a festival, or I always go watch the support act, or whatever situation I'm in. And there's been times where I've missed bands because they've been either opening up and I've not caught their name, or I've walked in at a tent at a festival and halfway through the set and I've not caught who they were. But I've enjoyed them, but had no way of trying to find out, or it'd be extremely difficult to find out who they were. So for that side of things, like you say, it's great. But then, like you say, that the discovery of stuff through word of mouth, and there was something a bit more special about it at times. I remember like when going back to sort of download and stuff, when I'm a huge Alice in Chains fan, and when Alice in Chains reformed with William DeVal at the vocals now, obviously in Way of Lane, me and my friend Stevie, also a big Alice in Chains fan, like I say this before social media or anything like that, we didn't know what William DeVal looked like, we didn't know what he sounded like, all we knew was Alice in Chains were playing download with this new bloke, and we were going to go check it out. And I remember like some of my friends weren't really that bothered, and they were sort of a bit hungover, so they were sort of like on the hill of download, just sort of dying. And me and Steve were like, well, no, we're going to go in a bit because we want to check him out. And we were stood like by the sound desk, and we're like, well, this is close enough, because I'll be honest with you, we wanted to kind of watch them and go, not without Lane, and walk away. But William is fantastic. He's an amazing frontman, great voice, perfect for Alice in Chains. And he came in, and I just remember like, seeing William walk on, and you used to like Lane slightly before, this scrawny little white guy, and in walks William DeVal, this black guy with this massive afro, and we're all going, okay, how's he gonna? Because visually, I'm not being racist, but visually, you thought, well, how's he gonna sound like him? How's this gonna work? And then William DeVal just started singing. We were just, I remember me and Stevie just looking at each other, and they opened up with Angry Chair, and the whole of Angry Chair is me and Stevie just looking at each other, going, and then they went into them bones, and we just looked at each other, didn't say a word, looked back at the others, and just went, we'll see you later, and just ran in as far as we could. And it was fantastic. But at the time, no one really knew of him. But like you say, it's that discovery thing, and it was fantastic. And it's great for discovering new bands and rising bands, and managing to connect with people, and that sort of thing. Everything's got its plus and minus points, but I do miss sometimes just discovering things by word of mouth or what have you.
Or proper sort of small independent record shops, that sort of thing. I know there's still a few around, but they kind of I think in Northampton, like the only place you can actually buy a CD is going to be something like HMV, assuming they're still open after lockdown, and then places like Smith's, which don't really kind of represent. You're not going to have like niche stuff there.
No. I say we used to, it's shut down, and it's been shut down for years, but there was a shop around our way called Andy's Records, and it was one of those record shops, like you say, proper independent record shop.
Yeah.
And if you went in and went, I'm buying this, the bloke behind the counter went, have you heard that? I remember there's so many albums I listened to, especially at that period of being 13, 14, and the new metal thing had just started coming. I was brought up on rock and like sort of old school heavy metal, Sabbath, Priest, and stuff from my dad and all that. But discovering my generation of stuff and coming through, and there were so many albums I bought purely because I went and bought something, and the guy behind the counter was going, "Oh, dude, if you'd like this, you should try this band." And I'm like,
Yeah.
"Well, I don't know, but no, seriously, you should check this out." And they'd play it on the speakers in the shop or whatever, and you'd be like, "Oh, okay." And it was one of those things like if you went there, and even if they didn't have it, that it was gives your phone number, we'll track it down. You don't get that kind of community in a record shop anymore.
I suppose you got, like, I've discovered quite a few bands from listening to radio or sort of streaming. Like your Spotify, and you get all the recommendations. There's all the algorithms, so it's kind of almost like bands' success is governed by sort of almost algorithms and things.
Yeah.
So, well, I'm grateful because I've discovered some great bands, like stuff that I hadn't sort of previously heard, like Haken, Soen, and bands otherwise I may not have sort of come across. But it's also for up and coming bands that are trying to kind of do something. You kind of trying to find ways of, well, how do we get ourselves picked up by the algorithms? What do we need to do? And it's almost like they're dictating sort of release cycles, and you're trying to keep sort of content rolling, and you're almost trying to kind of do what the sort of streaming platforms want you to do, to kind of get the streams and then get paid sort of very, very little, if anything, for them. So it's again, there are some benefits from streaming. Certainly I think it is good for some levels of discovery, but it's not the same as going and having that personal interaction in a record store and getting sort of personal recommendations.
Definitely not, man. But like I said, I think there's that. I was saying to a few bands I spoke to lately, but I think for the first time in a long time, there's a proper scene again where people are supporting each other, in terms of bands supporting artists, and fans supporting artists. So it got to a point again where I was going to gigs and up and down the country and all over the shop for whoever it might be. And like Winner's End was a prime example, and I keep mentioning that, but I walked into Winner's End and there was at least 30, 40 people that I knew from just going to gigs and saying hi to and having a chat and all that. I had no idea who was going, but they were all there. We all had a beer, we all had a chat, and oh, you should check out this band, blah, blah, blah. And it just seems to be, I think everyone's craving it even more because it's been over a year since we've been able to go to live music. And
there's definitely a scene, and we get a lot of support, and we're really grateful for it. We had a 45-minute merch queue at the end of Winter's End. Like, we've never experienced that before. We pretty much completely sold out of everything, and we're there for a long time, sort of signing and doing photos. It was great. Absolutely loved it. There are sort of a number of people that you do see at pretty much every event supporting bands, buying their merch, which is sort of absolutely fantastic. And, really, really appreciate it.
So what have the band got planned for the rest
so
of
when we did the acoustic gigs,
No, go on, sorry.
Sorry, what was that, Lee?
No, you're right, go on. We'll talk about that in a bit, don't matter.
Sorry. Yeah, I think my internet connection's just got a bit unstable.
That's all right.
I was just saying, we've had some, when we did manage to get a couple of gigs in, we did a couple of acoustic sets sort of locally. We had people coming from all over the country, which was quite humbling, really, to come see us do an hour's set out in the cold. It was really quite special.
That's
so
good.
There is some great grassroots support.
There's a lot of it at the minute. Have you guys got any plans for the remainder of the year other than the acoustic album? I know it's a bit of a weird time to try and make any plans as such, but is there any plans for any possible life?
It's a difficult one. So if we've got all the festivals from 2020 were provisionally rebooked for 2021. So that's all looking good, apart from the likelihood of those being cancelled and pushed back again. I think it's quite high.
Yeah.
Off the back of Winter's End, we did. We're on the bill for Rockstock, which we're really, really pleased about. I think we're playing on the same day as Those Damn Crows.
Nice.
So really looking forward to that. So that was a big one for us. Steelhouse, we've got a load of other festivals, but whether they go ahead or not, I'm not sure. There's potentially some tours at the end of the year. again, everything is kind of up in the air. We've got some stuff later on which hasn't been announced, which I think is probably late enough in the year that it should go ahead. So yeah, it's wait and see. The diary's pretty busy, but I'm just not confident at the moment we'll be able to do it.
No, like you say,
until the latter part of the year. I really hope that your festival does go ahead.
oh, thanks, man. Yeah,
Lineup looks great. Really,
thanks,
really strong.
Cool. So, right at the beginning of the interview, we're going to play Stone. But what song of yours would you like us to play at the end of the interview?
Can we go for Just a Ride?
All right, man. Yeah, we'll go with that.
Acoustic version. Do we need to go through dates or anything again, or is that all?
Yeah, by all means, no. But by all means, tell people where they can pre-order the album, where they can, when the date's being released, and go for it, mate. The platform's yours, Grant. Cool.
Okay, so the announcement for the acoustic album, The Other Side, is today, the 26th of Feb. Pre-orders are available on the website to order physical copies, CDs. You'll find links on our website, but also check out our other socials, so Facebook, that's Empire, Instagram, Empire Rock, and Twitter, which is Empire as well. So hopefully, in the not too distant future, we'll see you at a gig sometime. Sounds good. And obviously, when this interview airs, Grant, we'll put your website up there for the pre-orders and everything on all our social medias, just so people can grab it there as well. And yeah, thanks for your time, dude. It's been good to speak to you. Likewise, really enjoyed it, Lee. It was worth the wait. Obviously, we'll put out stuff as well on our socials, sort of saying, this is happening and all that sort of stuff. Appreciate it. All right, buddy. It's been good chat to you. Take care. Likewise. Cheers, Lee. Thanks. Bye. Bye.